Hey coin lovers! Welcome to the Worth Old Coins channel, your place to discover the hidden value and rare facts about old coins. In today's video we're revealing the top 4 valuable coins, and one of them might just be in your collection. So don't skip this video, let's find out their real worth. Top 1. The King George VI 1951 sixpence coin is a classic piece of British pre-decimal currency deeply rooted in the United Kingdom's long-standing monetary tradition before decimalisation took place in 1971. The sixpence coin, often affectionately known as a tanner, had been part of British coinage since the 16th century under Edward VI, and by 1951 it was still widely used in everyday transactions across Britain and other territories where British currency circulated. The denomination of 6 pence was equal to 1/40th of a pound sterling or half a shilling, making it a mid-value coin that was practical for both small purchases and larger amounts when combined with other denominations. The 1951 issue under King George VI belongs to the later years of his reign, just 1 year before his death in 1952, and carries immense historical and numismatic interest as it represents the post-war era of Britain when the country was recovering from World War II and adapting to modernization in both economy and coinage. The design and physical characteristics of the 1951 sixpence are distinctive and carefully crafted. The coin was made of cupronickel, a combination of copper and nickel rather than silver. This shift had occurred in 1947 when the British government removed silver from general circulation coinage due to economic pressures and the need to conserve precious metals in the aftermath of the war. The 1951 sixpence therefore reflects this transition to base metal coinage. It weighs 2.83 grams, has a diameter of 19.41 millimeters, and features a milled edge, making it tactile and easy to recognize by feel alone, something important in an age when many people handled coins daily without looking closely at them. The metal's silvery appearance was intended to resemble earlier silver issues, but its durability and affordability made it far more practical for mass circulation. On the obverse side of the coin is the portrait of King George VI, the father of Queen Elizabeth II. This effigy was designed by Thomas Humphrey Paget, one of the most respected coin designers of the time. The portrait shows the king facing left, crowned with the laurel wreath, an ancient symbol of victory and honor, though he is not shown wearing a crown, reflecting a dignified but understated representation of monarchy. Around the effigy is the Latin legend Georgius 6 Dei Gratia Rex, which translates to George VI by the grace of God King. This inscription reflects the monarch's divine right to rule, a traditional element of British coinage, while also reminding subjects of the king's constitutional authority. The reverse side of the coin carries a highly detailed design featuring a crowned monogram G6R, George VI Rex, with the letters standing for the king's name and title. Above the monogram rests the Tudor crown, a powerful emblem of British sovereignty that was frequently used on coins' heraldry and official emblems during the king's reign. Flanking the crown are the numerals of the date 19 on the left and 51 on the right, signifying the year of issue. Beneath the central design appears the denomination 6 pence, clearly stating its value in the pre-decimal system. The entire reverse design was executed with sharp relief and fine detail, making the coin visually striking despite its small size. In circulation, the 6 pence coin was extremely popular. By 1951, it was commonly used for everyday expenses such as buying sweets, newspapers, bus fares, and small household items. Its role in society extended beyond commerce. 6 pence coins were considered lucky charms, often placed in Christmas puddings as a token of good fortune, and sometimes given as wedding gifts to symbolize prosperity. Because of this cultural importance, the 6 pence was beloved by the public, and its eventual withdrawal in 1980 was met with nostalgia. The 1951 sixpence thus represents not only a monetary function, but also a cherished cultural tradition. Historically, the 1951 sixpence coin also reflects the wider context of Britain's post-war recovery. By the early 1950s, rationing was still in effect, industries were rebuilding, and the nation was redefining its global role after the loss of empire and the rise of new powers. Coins like the 6 pence, simple and utilitarian, symbolized continuity in the midst of change. The decision to continue striking the 6 pence in cupronickel also shows how Britain was adapting to economic realities, moving away from silver, but retaining traditional designs that reassured the public during uncertain times. From a numismatic perspective, the 1951 sixpence is not particularly rare, since many were struck for circulation, and large numbers survive today in collectors' hands. However, its value depends heavily on condition. Well-worn examples may only be worth their face value to casual collectors, while coins in extremely fine EF or uncirculated UNC condition can command significantly higher prices, especially when graded by professional services. Proof versions were not issued for the sixpence in 1951, but high-quality strikes exist and are valued by specialists in British coinage. End conclusion. The King George VI 1951 sixpence coin is a fascinating artifact of mid-20th century Britain carrying both economic and cultural weight. Its cupronickel composition illustrates the post-war shift in coinage materials, its design embodies the dignity of King George VI's reign, and its practical use made it a beloved coin in households across the nation. Beyond its monetary role, it remains a symbol of luck, tradition, and national resilience during a transformative period in British history. Today, it continues to attract collectors and historians alike who view it not just as currency, but as a lasting legacy of King George VI and the pre-decimal British coinage system. Top 2. The King George VI 1951 1-shilling coin is one of the most important pre-decimal coins of the United Kingdom, and it represents both the rich tradition of British coinage and the transitional period of the mid-20th century. The 1-shilling coin, which equaled 12 pence or 1/20th of a pound sterling, was an essential denomination in daily circulation prior to the decimalization of British currency in 1971 BY. 1951 Britain was still recovering from the devastation of World War II. And coinage, such as the shilling, played a key role in the economic life of the nation. The coin was issued under the reign of King George VI, the father of Queen Elizabeth II, who had ascended to the throne in 1936 and ruled until his death in 1952. The 1951 shilling therefore belongs to the final years of his reign and carries significant historical weight as one of the last issues before the change in monarchy. It also reflects a broader period of transformation in British coinage, as silver had already been removed from circulation coins in 1947, making the 1951 issue composed of cupronickel rather than the sterling silver used in earlier decades. Physically, the 1951 1-shilling coin was struck in cupronickel 75%, copper 25%, nickel, a hard and corrosion-resistant alloy that gave the coin a bright silvery appearance without the expense of real silver. It weighed 5.65 grams, had a diameter of 23.5 millimeters, and a milled edge to prevent clipping or counterfeiting. The use of cupronickel reflected the economic conditions of post-war Britain, where the government needed to produce durable coins at low cost while still maintaining public confidence in the currency. Despite the lack of precious metal, the coin remained popular and continued the long tradition of the shilling, which dated back centuries in English coinage history. The obverse side of the 1951 1-shilling coin features the left-facing portrait of King George VI, designed by Thomas Humphrey Paget, THPA, leading coin artist of the time. The king is depicted bare-headed without a crown, which was a deliberate stylistic choice to emphasize a dignified yet humble image of monarchy, contrasting with more elaborate crown portraits of earlier kings. Surrounding the effigy is the Latin inscription, Georgius VI Dei Gratia Rex, meaning, George VI by the grace of God King. This inscription, standard across many of his coinages, expressed both the authority of the monarch and the religious tradition that underpinned Britain's monarchy. Paget's portrait of George VI is admired for its simplicity and strength, capturing the king during a time when Britain needed stability and resilience. The reverse side of the 1951 shilling is unique in that there were two different reverse designs issued for the same year, one representing England and one representing Scotland. This dual design system had been introduced in 1937 during George VI's reign to reflect the distinct national symbols of the United Kingdom within the coinage system. The English reverse design features a crowned lion standing atop a crown, a symbol of England's royal strength and sovereignty. Around the design are the inscriptions FID Def 1 shilling along with the date 1951 divided on either side of the crown. FID Def is an abbreviation of Fidei Defensor, meaning Defender of the Faith, a title held by British monarchs since the reign of Henry VIII. The Scottish reverse design instead displays a crowned Scottish lion within a double traced-shore ornamental border topped by St. Edward's crown, symbolizing Scotland's role within the United Kingdom. The same inscriptions FID Def 1 shilling and the date surround the design. These two variations meant that collectors often sought both versions for a complete set, and they also symbolized the recognition of national identities within the broader unity of the British Isles. In circulation, the shilling was widely used for everyday purchases and larger sums when combined with other denominations. Its value, 12 pence, made it an important middle coin often used in paying for groceries, market goods, or transportation. A T was also the direct equivalent of 1/20th of a pound, making it vital in accounting and trade. The coin was particularly significant because the shilling would later form the basis of the decimal system when in 1971 it effectively converted into the new 5 new pence coin, identical in size and shape. Thus the 1951 shilling is both a relic of the pre-decimal system and a precursor to Britain's decimal coinage. Culturally, the shilling carried much symbolic weight. T was associated with military pay. The phrase, to earn one's shilling, referred to joining the army, and in popular culture the coin often appeared in idioms, literature, and everyday speech. By 1951, it had been in circulation in various forms for centuries, so it held a sense of continuity and familiarity in British life. The fact that George VI's 1951 issue came during Britain's recovery years after World War II adds to its historical resonance, as it was used during an era of rationing, rebuilding, and social change. From a numismatic perspective, the 1951 1-shilling coin is not particularly rare, since millions were struck for circulation in both the English and Scottish reverse designs. However, its value today depends on condition. Coins that were heavily circulated are common and of modest value, while examples in extremely fine, EF, uncirculated, UNC, or proof-like condition are far more sought after by collectors. The coin holds added interest for those who collect complete sets of English and Scottish issues, or who focus on the reign of King George VI. While not a high-value rarity, it is considered an essential piece in any collection of British pre-decimal coinage because of its role in both everyday commerce and the symbolic recognition of England and Scotland on coinage. In conclusion, the King George VI 1951 1-shilling coin is a remarkable piece of British numismatic history. With its cupronickel composition, dignified portrait of George VI, and dual reverse designs honoring both England and Scotland, it embodies the traditions, unity, and cultural identity of mid-20th century Britain. Serving as an essential everyday coin in commerce, it also carried historical weight as one of the last shillings issued before the end of George VI's reign, and as part of the long lineage of shillings stretching back to Tudor times today, it remains a fascinating collectible valued not just for its metal, but for the story it tells of a nation in transition, balancing tradition with modernity in the years leading to a new monarch and a new age of British coinage. Top 3. The King George VI 1948 1-shilling coin is a historically significant pre-decimal coin of the United Kingdom, representing not only the economic life of post-war Britain, but also the cultural and political realities of the late 1940s. The 1-shilling coin, which had been in circulation for centuries, was equal to 12 old pence or 1/20th of a pound sterling, and was one of the cornerstone denominations of the British monetary system prior to decimalisation in 1971. By 1948, Britain was in the early stages of recovery after the devastation of the Second World War, and coinage such as the shilling was heavily relied upon in everyday transactions, from buying food and rationed goods to paying for services. The 1948 issue falls into a fascinating period of transition in coinage history, as only a year earlier, in 1947, the government had permanently removed silver from circulating coins, replacing it with cupronickel due to economic pressures and the need to conserve precious metals. Thus, the 1948 shilling stands as one of the first fully base metal issues, marking a turning point in the composition of British coinage. The physical characteristics of the 1948 shilling coin are typical of the mid-20th century issues. A T was struck in cupronickel, 75% copper, 25% nickel, giving it a silvery appearance, but with none of the intrinsic bullion value that earlier sterling silver shillings had carried. T weighed 5.65 grams, had a diameter of 23.5 millimeters, and was produced with a milled edge, which served both an aesthetic function and a practical one by helping to deter counterfeiting and clipping. Its durability in circulation made it a reliable medium of exchange in a time when Britain's economy was still tightly rationed and recovering from wartime shortages. This coin was made to be purely functional, practical for commerce rather than for prestige, yet it retained the familiar designs and national symbols that linked it to centuries of tradition. On the obverse side, the 1948 shilling features the left-facing portrait of King George VI, designed by Thomas Humphrey Paget, THP, whose initials sometimes appear below the king's neck. This effigy shows the monarch bareheaded, a deliberate stylistic choice to reflect a sense of dignity, humility, and stability during a period when the country was in need of reassurance. Surrounding the portrait is the standard Latin legend, Georgius 6 Dei Gratia Rex, translated as George VI by the grace of God King. Unlike earlier monarchs, George VI's image projects an understated strength rather than grandeur, aligning with his reputation as the steady wartime king who guided Britain through its darkest days and into the uncertain post-war years. The reverse side of the 1948 1-shilling coin carries a distinctive and historically significant feature. Like other shillings of George VI's reign, it was issued in two different national designs, one for England and one for Scotland, a practice introduced in 1937 to acknowledge the dual heritage of the United Kingdom. The English reverse design depicts a crowned lion standing atop the royal crown, a long-established emblem of English sovereignty and monarchy. The inscription reads, FID Def 1 shilling, with the date 1948 split to either side of the crown. The abbreviation FID Def stands for Fidei Defensor, or Defender of the Faith, one of the monarch's traditional titles. The Scottish reverse design portrays a crowned lion rampant within a double-traced shore, a heraldic device that has long been associated with the Scottish royal arms. This version also includes the crown above and the same inscriptions around the edge. Both designs represent not only the unity of the United Kingdom but also the respect for its distinct nations and traditions. For collectors, having both varieties from 1948 is essential for a complete set. In terms of circulation, the shilling was an incredibly practical and widely used coin, and 1948 12 pence held genuine purchasing power. It could buy several rationed food items, cover public transport fares, or contribute meaningfully toward larger household expenses. It was also an important accounting unit, as 20 shillings made up £1 sterling, making it central to both everyday transactions and broader trade calculations. Its importance is underscored by the fact that the shilling design would survive into the decimal era, effectively becoming the 5 new pence coin in 1971, identical in size and weight. Historically, the 1948 1 shilling coin reflects Britain's broader post-war challenges. The nation was under strict austerity measures, rationing remained in place, and the economy was dependent on rebuilding with American loans and Marshall Plan assistance. The switch to cupronickel coinage was part of these austerity policies, conserving precious metals for industrial and international purposes. Yet despite these hardships, the continuity of designs and denominations like the shilling gave the public a sense of stability. Holding a shilling in 1948 was not just about its monetary value, it was also a reminder of tradition and the endurance of the monarchy and nation through adversity. From a numismatic perspective, the 1948 1 shilling is not considered a rare coin, as large numbers were struck for circulation to meet the needs of post-war Britain. However, its appeal lies in its position within a transitional moment in British coinage history, the first full year in which base metals were standard. Coins in circulated condition are very common, but pieces in extremely fine, EF, uncirculated, UNC, or proof-like condition are more collectible and can command higher values. Collectors often seek both the English and Scottish reverse versions, as they tell the full story of the issue and highlight the dual identity nature of British shillings during George VI's reign. In conclusion, the King George VI 1948 1 shilling coin is a historically rich and culturally meaningful piece of British numismatics. It embodies the transition from precious metal coinage to practical base metal issues, reflects the post-war struggles and resilience of the British people, and maintains the dignified image of a monarch who became a symbol of stability. Its dual English and Scottish reverse designs honor the distinct traditions within the United Kingdom, while its practical role in daily commerce made it one of the most important coins in circulation. Today, it is not merely a collectible item but a tangible link to Britain's post-war years, the reign of George VI, and the long history of the shilling denomination that stretched back to Tudor times and forward into the decimal era. Top 4. The King George VI 1948 2 shillings coin, also commonly known as a florin, is a fascinating piece of British pre-decimal currency that embodies the heritage, resilience, and traditions of Britain in the late 1940s. The florin, valued at 2 shillings, 24 old pence or 1/10 of a pound sterling, had a long history in British coinage since its introduction in 1849 during Queen Victoria's reign. As an early step toward decimalization by 1948, Britain was in the midst of a difficult post-war recovery, still under rationing and austerity measures, and the nation's coinage reflected both practicality and continuity in its designs. The 1948 issue under King George VI, who reigned from 1936 until 1952, was particularly important because it marked the first full year of production of British coins entirely in cupronickel, following the government's decision in 1947 to permanently withdraw silver from circulation. Thus, the 1948 2 shillings coin is not only a medium of exchange but also a historical marker of Britain's transition from silver to base metal coinage. The physical characteristics of the 1948 2 shillings coin reflect the durable and functional nature of cupronickel coinage. It was struck in cupronickel, 75% copper, 25% nickel, giving it a bright silvery appearance while ensuring resilience against wear and corrosion. The coin weighed 11.31 grams, had a diameter of 28.5 millimeters, and a milled edge, which was both decorative and practical, serving to prevent counterfeiting and clipping. These specifications were consistent with previous florins in terms of size and weight, so the transition from silver to cupronickel was seamless for the public, who continued to recognize and use the coin without disruption. Though lacking intrinsic precious metal value, the 1948 issue retained the dignity and symbolic designs of earlier shillings and florins, preserving continuity in British monetary culture. On the obverse side, the coin bears the portrait of King George VI facing left, designed by the esteemed engraver Thomas Humphrey Paget, THP. This portrait shows the king bare-headed, in keeping with his preference for a modest and dignified representation, in contrast to the more regal crowned portraits of earlier monarchs. Surrounding the effigy is the Latin legend Georgius VI Dei Gratia Rex, meaning George VI by the grace of God, King. This inscription standard on his coinage symbolizes the monarch's divine right to rule while also emphasizing continuity in a time of uncertainty. George VI's portrait on the 1948 florin is admired for its clean and realistic style, reflecting the king's reputation as a man of duty and quiet strength who had guided Britain through World War II and into the challenging years that followed. The reverse design of the 1948 2 shillings coin is one of the most iconic and symbolic designs in British numismatics. It was created by George Kruger Gray, a renowned coin designer, who was responsible for many of the most enduring reverse motifs of the 20th century. The design features a Tudor rose at the center representing England with a shamrock for Ireland, a thistle for Scotland, and a leek for Wales radiating outward. These four national floral emblems are crowned with St. Edward's crown above the rose, symbolizing the unity of the four nations under the British monarchy. Around the design appears the inscription, FID-Def 2 Shillings 1948. The abbreviation FID-Def stands for Fidei Defensor, meaning Defender of the Faith, one of the monarch's traditional titles since the reign of Henry VIII. This reverse design is particularly significant because it visually represented the unity of the United Kingdom at a time when Britain was navigating profound changes both domestically and internationally. In circulation, the 2 shillings coin held considerable purchasing power in 1948. Especially in the era of rationing and post-war austerity. Worth the equivalent of 24 old pence, it was a convenient mid-value coin for groceries, market purchases, and everyday expenses. For larger sums, the florin's role was particularly important in trade and accounting since it represented exactly 1/10 of a pound. This decimal-like value was one reason why the florin was originally introduced in 1849 as an early experiment in simplifying Britain's complex monetary system. The coin thus carried both practical and symbolic importance, bridging tradition with a gradual move toward modernization. Thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe my channel for more videos.